that for sure. We're at 97, so that's great. Everyone must be super interested in what we have to say today. I know I'm excited to hear this information. We are going to hear all about preliminary data and how you can access that, when that will be coming out, when you can expect that. So I am excited to get started. During today's presentation, we are going to hear mostly from Mary Johnstun from Bach Harrison. So we're excited to have her here with us to explain everything related to the preliminary report. And I'll be here to support. And then if everyone else, you already know that Sophia is here to support as well. We also have Jeff Polchin from PCCD here with us, Elise from Penn State EPIS here with us, and Phyllis Law is also here with us as well to be support. So we are excited to have everyone here to help man questions and see what we can keep the conversations that we can have. So the first thing that we want to do is as always, we have over 100 people now, so we always invite you to please like Penn State's EPIS on social media so you can get all the latest information related to the Pennsylvania Youth Survey. Also, the latest information as it relates to the First Wednesday webinars, when those are happening, when those are taking a break for the month. So please like us on there, interact with us on social media. We've got a lot of content coming your way as it relates to the pays, how we can use it, when to use what, and all of that information as well. So please do that. And I can see that a bunch of you are putting in the chat your name and where you are coming from. So if you, just a reminder for those of you who are just joining us, we want you to please participate in the chat and put your name and your organization, school district, charter school, whatever organization you're associated with, please put that in there as well. So let's kick off with a poll. So go ahead, you can execute that, Sophia. Our poll for today is, have you accessed the preliminary report yet? And we've got answers on there. So go ahead and select the one that best describes your situation as it relates to the preliminary report. So I'll give you a minute or so to get that information in there, and then Sophia will share with us the results.
Yeah, I'll give you about like 30 seconds. All right, well, it looks like we stopped getting some answers in, so I'll share it.
Great. Okay, so it looks like we have a significant amount of folks who have not accessed the preliminary report or are not able to access the report. So, and it looks like we have a small amount who has already accessed the preliminary report. So great, thanks for sharing. I think the information we're about to share with you from Mary is going to be relevant to all groups. We want to make sure that everybody has this information as you are receiving, or if you're given access to look at the preliminary report in the school district or school districts that you are involved with. So then the next thing that we want to do, and Sophia did allude to this a bit in the beginning, we are going to switch gears a bit in this webinar and do things a little bit differently. We do want to use the question and answer section for questions, and we're going to use the chat to sort of drum up some communication. We want to make sure everybody gets all the information that they need, and we want to see how you're feeling in the moment as we're going through the webinar. So the first thing that we would like for everyone to communicate, and I see that a lot of you are sharing your information, your name and organization name in the chat. Now we're going to switch to, if you could tell us if you have any thoughts, whether you used the preliminary report in the past or how you think you could possibly use the preliminary report as it is coming out at the latest in January for your school district or charter school. So go ahead and participate with that in the chat, and no pressure, but we are going to switch really quickly to one more slide before we get into, I'm going to sort of pass this off to Mary and have her go over the next slide as well, if you don't mind, Mary. So the next slide is important dates that we have coming up. So Mary, do you want to go ahead and take it away? You can review this and what everyone can expect as it relates to preliminary report, and then you can just go ahead and start chatting. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you. Yes. So a good number of districts that have already closed their links. So that was a key component, is that if you well, I guess two key components. If districts that are doing the survey online, so we do not have preliminary reports for those doing the survey in paper. So those doing the survey online who also closed their links. So they either did it in their portal or they reached out to us at Bach Harrison and said, hey, we're completely done. Those are the ones that we're focused on getting preliminary reports out to now. That said, we still have some stragglers that are doing the survey. Once the survey completely closes at the break, so on the 22nd, then we'll shift over the break to kind of start creating preliminary results reports for every other district that did the survey online. So again, if you are not part of the batch today that's going, or this week that's going out, yours will come in January. So how did we roll these out? We started rolling them out on Friday of last week, and we will continue through tomorrow. We have a batch that goes out every morning and every afternoon, and we're staggering the release of these alphabetically for a really important reason. And that's because we still have students who are taking the survey. And we learned the hard way in 2021 that when we tried to push out hundreds of preliminary links reports to all of our amazing superintendents and data users, in addition to students taking surveys, it really taxed the system. And so what we're trying to do in terms of the staggered release is to hopefully ease that frustration with waiting for your data to load. And so that's kind of part of the release. So if you, I think we are through at this point, I'm thinking alphabetically. I think we're through like the J's. So if you haven't yet really received your report yet, you could be in a batch that goes out this afternoon or tomorrow. But in general, just keep an eye out for those. If after the end of day Thursday, you still haven't received it, you can reach out to me. Another element of the release is that superintendents are always our #1 gatekeeper. So we see them as kind of the owners of the data. So what we've done is that we're focusing our release right now on superintendents. So superintendents are given an email. So in their email, in addition to providing the web link and a password, we're also providing them with a list of authorized data users. So we're saying, hey, heads up, remember, you gave your survey coordinator permission to access the report. You gave these individuals permission to access the report. You have 1 week to tell us if you would like this list to change. So there's a lot of reasons for this. We start recruiting, honestly, in the spring. We started recruiting in the spring. So we have a lot of administrators that are new. We want to have them be able to kind of weigh in on that. So this just gives the superintendent a little bit of respect in terms of kind of reviewing that list before we start sending those out. So if you are a survey coordinator or an additional authorized data user, and you're wondering, where the heck is my report? You will be getting it. We'll start rolling out the release in a very similar fashion starting on Friday, and it will go till the next Thursday. And we'll do it alphabetically again, so we do not tax the system, but just know that they're coming. This presentation will be delivering this again in January, just so that those of you who don't yet have yours might be able to join us and kind of learn more about it when you actually have the report in your hands. But that's just a little bit of an overview of the preliminary report. Likewise, we will start this process, this rolling release process probably in a more expedited fashion, just because we won't have students in the survey at the time in January. So if you fall into that category of you're doing it online and you haven't yet closed your links, you'll be getting your report in January in that same rollout fashion. Okay, Lee, next slide, I think. Okay, and
You can go ahead and start with we'll do this halfway.
oh, good. Okay.
Stop share, Sophia.
Thank you. Oh, great. Let me go ahead and share. Okay, so we are looking at a profile for or a sample for preliminary highlights report for sample school district. So this is anonymized data. So we're protecting the anonymity of any district that participated, but this gives you a good sense of for your school district, especially if you have grades 6, 8, 10, and 12 that participated, what you can expect your data to look like. One of the first, I will be kind of focusing on some really important notes, and then we're going to jump into the visualization so that you can see kind of how those work. I'll point out a number of kind of features so that you can understand your data a little bit better. And then we'll just kind of go through the survey in terms of each section. I want to point out again, as we go through, if there are any questions that need any other specific notes, I'll work kind of discuss those. And then as we go along, I'll try to give some suggestions on what you might be able to use these data for. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump in. So in general, this does provide results for those doing the survey online from the Pennsylvania Youth Survey. In general, the sponsors for the project are PCCD, Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, and the Department of Education. So it's important to note that this report shares only PAYS data from 2023. So you might know that your profile reports, which I know everybody's always excited to get, those usually have 3 years of data. For the preliminary highlights report, these are preliminary data, so they haven't been completely cleaned and run through our validity checks. In general, these are preliminary data, and we just have 1 year of it. The full profile reports will be released on April 30th, and that will include data from 2019, 2021, and 2023 if you participated in all 3 of those administrations. We have run as many validity and honesty checks as we can through Alchemer. But that said, there is always a little bit of additional cleaning and neatening that happens after we pull the full data sets. So just note that these data might not match your data, final reported data exactly, and that's why we're calling them preliminary. Also note that we have to have at least 25 kind of valid per grade to be able to report for that grade. So if you find that your report is missing data for any grades, or honestly, if you're just missing a report entirely because you're a really small school, just reach out. We can double check that. But usually if you are missing any grades, that is because it didn't meet that minimum threshold. Note that most of these items display data of all students. So we call the all students, that's our denominator for those of you math folks out there who want to use the word denominator just for fun every once in a while. But so most of the data are of all students who took the survey from your district. That said, we have some data that are reported of a subgroup of respondents. So for example, of those that indicated of those who indicated being abused, we might say of those students who indicated that, what is their experience like? And we will point that out. A good rule of thumb is just if you see any additional text in your report, it's likely pointing to something like that, where there's a nuance in the data that it's important that you take the time to read that to understand who you're talking about. And I'll point out some of those as well. All of the data are reported at grade level. We will not be showing kind of an all grades combined, which is an inclusion of your profile report. We will be covering a lot of similar topics or just honestly a handful of topics that you'll find in the profile. So the profile essentially gives you all of your data. Between that and the all questions by grade report, this report will focus on mental health, on substance use, on school climate and safety, and life stressors. Let's see. The font size is always set at 14. That said, if you like things bigger or smaller, all you have to do is hold down your control key and use your plus and minus button, which I think my screen is frozen. It's minus. Oh, there we go. It was just a little slow. And you can make the font as big as you want. You can make it as small as you want. For those of you that have just really good eyes, I'm going to keep it right here for our review. So just know that you can make that font bigger and smaller. And if you need any local level help, please reach out to EPIS and you can post a question using that PAYS link. Okay, so let's talk about what your report is including. Every report starts with participation. So that's going to let you know the schools that participated. So those are the schools that are represented in the data. So actually there are some districts that chose a hybrid administration in which some schools did the survey online and some schools did it in paper. We allow this as an option because it's just really accommodating. Not every school is set up for online and not every school, really likes to do paper. So this participation section is particularly important for those of you doing hybrid, or maybe not all of your schools participated for one reason or another. It's really important to see which schools are represented in your data. These will also provide you with kind of preliminary counts of participants by grade. Note that these, again, are preliminary. So your final reported numbers by grade might be a little different. We know that mental health concerns are at the top of everybody's mind right now. When we did
Oh, I think we missed Mary. She dropped off.
So let's take this moment, and for some of you who are still with us, if we can make sure we're addressing some of these questions, let's take that moment. Sophia, you good with that? So Phyllis, I might rely on Jeff to answer, and also Dr. Baker, if you could chime in. I know you all have answered some of these questions in the question and answer, but let's answer some of these for the group as well. We have a question from Susan about the regional SAP coordinator. She is a regional SAP coordinator, and she was curious about pulling the county-wide reports. Did we get that answered from Mary, or did you need some elaboration? Susan, if you want to answer in the chat, or allow you to elaborate.
Susan, I'll talk a little bit. I think the county-wide reports will be available in January, I believe, for everybody. So when everybody is closed out in the end of the year, that's what my understanding is right now. That's when they will be released in January. You can probably look for this. It looks like Mary's coming back. Maybe.
Okay, I am so sorry.
That's all right.
Speed is fine. I don't know what I get kicked off for. Could you tell me where it left off before I got?
You left off right. Somebody else probably can say exactly right where you were, but you were you had just started going through the top section, like the end of the questions. But you are not. We can't see you, so
okay.
I'm not sure if that's there, but we can see the report. There you go. We can see the report. All right. Okay,
great. All right. Apologies for that. This is a good reason why we'll be definitely recording both of these and recording the next one so that we can get this right as a testament of the work. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my video just in case that might help a little bit more. Okay, so for mental health concerns, that's the first section. Just note we're not including every single question that we have on mental health, just some of the ones that we consider to be kind of some of our top items or the most used items. So overall, you're going to see, in general, just kind of breaking down what you're going to see. You're going to see kind of an overall title. You're going to see a description that tells you what you're looking at. So here you're looking at data from this question from the survey, my overall mental health in the past month has been good. It's also going to tell you what you're looking at in terms of the students who marked big no or little no are going to be the dark blue bars. Students marking big yes or little yes are going to be these light ones. In general, when you're just looking at it, you don't need to kind of do the math in your head in terms of where these separators are at. If you just hover over any of these, it's going to show you the number and the percent responding to each of these items by grade. And likewise, if you hover over these individual ones for yes, then you're going to see those. Feelings of depression in the past year. Again, we're showing the question polled, which is in the past 12 months, have you felt depressed or sad most days, even if you felt okay sometimes? So again, it's telling you that we're rolling up big no and little no. We're rolling up big yes and little yes. And again, you have the numbers and percentages for each of those. So these data are really interesting. Oftentimes, honestly, for depression items, it's not uncommon for those to peak in the 10th grade. So it's interesting to see in the sample that it peaks there. Think life is not worth it. So sometimes I think that life is not worth it. That's the question we're pulling in. This is one of the questions that actually fuels our depressive symptom scale. Again, we're seeing big no, little no, big yes, little yes. Think I'm no good at all. At times, I think I'm no good at all. Another depressive symptoms scale question that we're reporting out individually. Again, we've got big no, big yes, little yes. All in all, I'm inclined to think of a failure. Again, a measurement that feeds our depressive symptom scale. And again, we have big no, big yes, little yes. So just kind of as you're getting used to looking at the data, just kind of hover over, get a sense of what, get your bearings on what you're looking at before you start interpreting the data. We do have a question in the survey about self-harm. So have you done anything to harm yourself, such as cutting, scraping, burning as a way to relieve difficult feelings or to communicate emotions that may be difficult to express verbally? For this, we're including all of the different data in terms of response options. So those students marking never, those students marking once or twice, and again, you're going to see the percent and the number. Those marking several times, again, you're going to see the percent and the number, and then those marking often. For questions like this, where we're showing, we've got a section of students that is essentially our 0, versus the students who are marking kind of 1 or more times. Sometimes you can just sort of visualize and kind of visually look at sort of anything that is not dark blue to get a sense of where you might have kind of a peak in use. So for example, here, when we kind of skim through this direction, we can see the 8th grade is most likely to have students that are marking anything from once or twice down to often. Who to talk to when sad, lonely, or worried. If you have felt sad, lonely, or worried in the past month, who did you talk to about it? This is a mark all that apply. Again, this just shows data for the specific question, whether it be students who said no one, students who said a caregiver, and other family member, friend, teacher, other adult, doctor or therapist, religious or spiritual leader, other adults in the community, and I have not felt this way in the past 30 days. So this rolls up everyone, in terms of, and you can look at the data by grade, these types of bar charts where we're really putting, this is a mark all that apply question, so we have to present the data in kind of this type of vertical bar chart fashion. It becomes more important to kind of hover over the item and check the percentage to get a sense of what the percentage is for each one. During the past 12 months, did you ever feel so sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks or more in a row that you stopped doing usual activities? These data, again, you're going to have a big no, a big yes, a little yes. Seriously considered suicide in the past year, during the past 12 months, did you ever seriously consider attempting suicide? For these, again, we've got the big no, little no, or actually for these questions, this is just simply a yes or no question. So we have no, and then we have yes. During the past 12 months, did you make a plan about how you would attempt suicide? These suicide ideation questions, I think just an important note is these come straight from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which is a national survey. We're able in our profile reports to actually show comparative national data for grades 10 and 12. And here, of course, we're just showing survey data, but again, we have no, then we have yes. Suicide attempts. So this is any by grade students marking no or yes. So we have no, and then we have yes. And that's it for the mental health. So you can see that the items there really give us just a nice overview of mental health topics in terms of depression, suicide ideation, etc. Again, it's not comprehensive on that topic, but you're gonna find a lot more data in your profile report, in your all questions by grade report, and then also in the web tool. So shifting to substance use. So it's important to note there's some important notes up top, and I'll just run through those because it's really important perspective. So note that the survey does ask questions for substance use that we ask about lifetime use, which is more of a measure of experimentation. So that's have you used in your lifetime, or how many times have you used in your lifetime? And then also past month use for these substances we're focusing on here for alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, and prescription drug use. Past month is if they've used in their lifetime, how many times have they used in the past month? And past month use can often be a measurement of regular use. You'll find that we're really focusing on lifetime use here. And the main reason for that is because the survey includes skip logic, so that students who do not mark, for example, that they've used alcohol in their lifetime are not even going to get or receive the 30-day alcohol use question. And so the way that the survey is formatted, and since we're providing these in preliminary format, if we would present those, it would just be of that subset of students. And we worry that that would cause confusion for these really important topics. So here we're really focusing on lifetime use, which is of all students. So another one is that just like I said, lifetime use is more of a measurement of experimental use rather than regular use. All right, for lifetime, we include most of the main substances I think people are concerned about, but just note that we also ask about a large variety of other substances, and you'll get those data for those in your profile report, in your all questions by grade report, or the web tool. So in terms of students' lifetime use of alcohol, have you ever tried beer, wine, or hard liquor? We're showing data for 5 groups. From left to right, these are students who mark never. We've got once or twice, once in a while, but not regularly, regularly in the past, and then regularly now. Interesting side note, you might recall that the question was asked differently in 2021 and before, if you're one of our veteran PACE data users. We shifted the language in these questions, shifted as part of a modernization effort, and also just to make sure that we're connecting with students in a way that they can respond to, and we can get the same type of data, but perhaps in a better way. For lifetime marijuana use, we're going to see the same thing. It's going to lay out, what exactly we're asking. It's going to cover never. I'll go to 12th grade because they have all of them. Never, once or twice, once in a while, but not regularly, regularly in the past, and regularly now. It is not uncommon to not see all of these bars, especially for grade 6. You might not see every bar there. If you do not see a bar there, it means no student marked that response option. For lifetime pain reliever use, this is just focused on prescription pain relievers. You can see the examples that we provide students here. Again, from left to right, it's never, once or twice, etc. Lifetime cigarette use, have you ever smoked cigarettes? Same thing, just hover over it to kind of see the bar. And hopefully as you're scanning through these, honestly, when I'm looking at a report like this, I like to keep a little bit of scratch paper just to my side, and I can just kind of write down some highlights. So at this point, this is the last substance. We're focusing on the substance use section. At this point, after I've looked at everything, I would probably go through my notes and say, okay, maybe I would rank these in order in terms of, okay, it looks like for our sixth graders that alcohol is the top use substance. It looks like for our 8th and 10th graders, lifetime marijuana use is actually higher than lifetime alcohol use. And it looks like for 12th graders, maybe for prescription drug use, the data are higher than maybe I would think that they would be. So I think that's one way to kind of process the data is after you go through each section to just kind of write some notes and takeaways on what you're finding from these. And again, if you're using these data for grant writing or reporting, really hovering over there to get the numbers and percents is really important because that makes your whatever you're writing, whether it be a plan or a report or a grant application, it makes it just a little bit more solid and actionable. School climate and safety is the next section. We focus on issues including pro-social opportunities and rewards within school, commitment to school, perceived school safety, bullying, and violence. So we start with a question, opportunities for one-on-one time with teachers. The question specifically is there are lots of chances for students in my school to talk with a teacher one-on-one or talk one-on-one with a teacher. These are questions that come again from our school protective factor scales. So this is a great example of a survey item that kind of serves two functions in terms of, first and foremost, allows us to understand this one particular kind of topic or issue, but it also serves to support those protective factor scales that help those that are working within the risk and protective factor model for prevention. So again, these roll up students that are marking no or big no or little no, big yes or little yes. So for these types of kind of positive frame questions, we're always going to find in general that the yes is higher than the no here. So again, kind of just taking time to get to know the question, to kind of wrap your brain around the response options and how they're coded and presented here is really important so that you don't misinterpret the data. Opportunities for class involvement. I have lots of chances to be a part of class discussions and activities. Again, we're looking at big no, little no, or big yes, little yes. These school climate and safety data hopefully are incredibly helpful to districts and schools. These are, like I said, roll into the risk and protective factor model and those scales. So they're definitely of incredible value and benefit to those doing local level prevention work. But we're hoping at the local school level, this can give you a read on, students' interactions with teachers, with their school environment, kind of how they're showing up, and kind of what some of the protective factors might look like within that school environment. The next item, chances for students to decide activities and rules. So the actual question is, in my school, students have a lot of chances to decide things like class activities or rules, so a little bit more autonomy in the classroom. And again, we have the big no, little no, or the big yes, little yes. The school lets my parents or caregivers know when I'm doing something well. Again, we have a big no, little no, big yes, little yes. Interesting side note, you will see in your data that any reference to parents has actually now been shifted to parents/caregivers. Any reference to mother or father has actually also been switched over to parents or caregivers. So this is one example of kind of the survey modernization that the PACE is going through right now. This is one thing that we've rolled out across the survey. And I can tell you you from our experience at Bach Harrison that most states are shifting to this model. We know that when we talk about just parents, we're excluding a lot of different families. And we know when we just talk about just mothers and just fathers, we're excluding a lot of different families in terms of single parent families, foster families, families that have, 2 moms and 2 dads, families that honestly the students are raised by their grandparents or another relative. So we're really excited about this more inclusive language for these questions. My teachers praise me when I work hard at school. Again, just kind of a measurement of just what can be a protective factor in terms of rewards for pro-social involvement or for working hard in school. And again, for these items that are positively framed, we're looking for data to be as high as possible. So we want these marking big yes, little yes to be as high as possible. And for these marking no, we want these to be kind of the lower of the 2 measurements. How important do you think the things you're learning in school are going to be for your later life? So again, just kind of getting a sense of the impacts of school, kind of the way that the school might be able to might be doing in terms of connecting students to sort of the goal or the purpose of school, giving students a mission in terms of kind of focusing in and seeing the value of attending school. And so again, for these, we broke these out more specifically, those who mark very important, quite important, fairly important, slightly important, and then not at all important. So again, just kind of hovering over there, getting a sense of kind of what those look like on a individual response option level is really important. When it comes to meaningfulness of school, how often do you feel that schoolwork you're assigned is meaningful and important? So kind of similar, but it kind of focuses more on just kind of the schoolwork itself and the perceived importance. Again, just kind of take time to get to know the response options that we're providing. So we've got never, seldom, sometimes, often, and then almost always. Do you enjoy being at school? This is pretty straightforward. Again, we're focusing the scale itself, or the response options are never, seldom, sometimes, often, and almost always. Perception of school safety. I feel safe at my school is the question we're focusing on here. And this presents data for 2 groups. We've got those marking big no, little no, and then big yes, little yes. And location of bullying. So this displays data for the question, if you have been bullied in the past 12 months, where were you bullied? This is a mark all that apply. This presents data for 4 different groups. The students who reported being bullied in the past 12 months answered this question. So this includes skip logic, where only students who indicated that they had been bullied in the past 12 months received this. Just knowing that this is a subgroup. So this is definitely not saying that, for example, 91% of 8th graders were bullied on school property. This is of the 8th graders who said they were bullied in the past year. This is the percent of them that were bullied on school property. And likewise, for example, online and media, of the 6th graders being bullied in the past year, 37.5% indicated being bullied online through social media or phone. You might be curious about why we have this I was not bullied. This is more of a little bit of a fail-safe in terms of, students who indicated that they were bullied. That bullying question framed it, for example, in the past 12 months. But maybe a student misread it, and instead they thought it, meant like in their lifetime. This gives students an opportunity to kind of rectify the issue in terms of saying, well, I was not bullied, or to kind of give that perspective. So don't be confused why those students are rolled in there. And this is one thing in terms of the data presentation, and we're not actually able to remove one response option, which is why we're kind of talking through some of these more interesting nuances of the data with you. Students were asked, do adults at your school stop bullying when they see or hear it, or when a student tells them about it? So this is students marking big no, little no, big yes, little yes. Again, this is one where we would want to see this big yes, little yes be as high as possible. Have you been threatened to be hit or beaten up at school property? Here we're responding never, once or twice, several times and often. Again, it is not uncommon to see 6th and 8th grade data for things like bullying and school violence to actually be higher than high school data. And that's just something we see in any state that we work with. Have you been attacked or hit by someone or beat up on school property? Again, we're reporting these by the groups in terms of how they mark the questions. So never, once or twice, several times. And then you can see here this example in this sample school district is one where not every grade has every response option. So you can see for 6th graders, they only students only marked either never, once or twice, or often. There are no students who actually marked that several times. All right, so hopefully you can see the school climate and safety data would be helpful for a lot of different initiatives, and from helping your teachers to understand how they're connecting with students, your school connecting with students as well in a really proactive, pro-social way, and one that is kind of leans into those protective factors, but also things like bullying, which are going to help you, and hopefully you can share those with anyone who could use these data. So at your school, it could be your teachers, it could be your counselors, it could be your school resource officers, etc. The final section of the report is called life stressors. So these focus on additional life situations and stressors. The full page has a lot of additional data that we're not covering here. So this section focuses specifically on death of family or friends, abuse, food insecurity, and lack of sleep. The full page includes questions on things like moving homes or transitions of mobility, homelessness, etc. But we're only including, again, just a snapshot of those. So if you're excited about any of these other topics that we're not including here, just to hopefully that kind of builds up some of the anticipation for when we release the full report. In the past 12 months, have any of your friends or family members close to you died? We've got, again, no or yes. The response options for those were quite simple. Food insecurity, specifically worrying that food at home would run out before your family got money to buy more. So this is more about that, how often they have worried about it. And so here, the response options are never, a few times, sometimes, and often. Food insecurity, skipping a meal. So this is less about the worry and actually more about when it happens. How often in the past year have you skipped a meal because your family didn't have enough money to buy food? These types of questions that kind of feed into that sort of social determinants of health model are just really powerful right now as we kind of understand the relationship between some of these more just sort of life, these life and circumstances and environment and the impact on students. So again, we're reporting all of the response options that were provided to students. So if, for example, you want to kind of roll these up and say, okay, I just want to refer to only to those students who marked never, and then those students who marked anything besides that. So anywhere from a few times to often, you would just need to hover over, kind of write down those percentages, and then you could add them up because these all add up to 100. Average hours of sleep per school night. So these represent just 2 students. So students that are sleeping less than 7 hours a night, students who are getting 7 hours or more a night. So again, we want kind of this side of things to be bigger. We want these to be as high as possible, students that are getting a good night's sleep. And there's so much research right now that just shows how powerful sleep is to an entire child's life, anywhere from grades to mental health. The impacts of a good night's sleep on students is really important. Types of abuse, again, this is of those indicating having been abused in the past year. So this is one to note, these are of students who are being abused in the past year rather than all of students. So again, we're looking at a subset. So when you're looking at this, we're not saying that 70% of 10th graders have experienced emotional abuse. We're saying of the students who said that they were abused in the past year, 70% of 10th grade for example, the students, 10th graders who said that they were abused in the past year, of those students, 70% said it was emotional abuse. Okay, and then that's it. There's another link to EPIS. EPIS is the evidence-based prevention and intervention support. The team is incredible, and they're here to help support you with whatever you need in terms of reading these data, interpreting it, applying it, understanding how you could use it, regardless of your level, regardless of if you're a superintendent or you're an authorized data user or you're a survey coordinator. Any of those, they're here to help and be a resource. So I will go ahead and end it there, and I'll go ahead and stop my share and turn it back to the group for some question answer.
Mary, there was a question about preliminary report release at the county and the IU level.
Oh,
could you
great.
confirm that the counties will get one, but the regional kind of reports will wait or not?
Yes, absolutely. So we don't run those until the school is completely finalized. So it's kind of like that second batch of districts. Once the school is, or I'm sorry, once the survey is completely closed, then we can say, okay, any school or district that participated online, we're going to roll those up into a county report. So we will include county reports. Those won't be password protected because data are regularly released at a county level. And the same for the IU, is we'll roll together those IU reports so that we can present those. It's important again to notice that those are not only preliminary data, but those specifically are only online surveys. So you are definitely, especially if you're a county or an IU where you had a good mix of districts that are doing the survey in paper, those data are not necessarily going to be representative of your entire county or IU. So for those, when those do come out, kind of studying the districts that we will list, the districts that are included, getting a sense of which districts are kind of represented there and which aren't on that list is going to be really important when it comes to interpreting those data. But those will all come out in January.
Okay, so look to probably towards the end of January, Mary?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Probably late January. That's one where we provide the links, I believe, to PCCD, and then PCCD will post them however they did 2021, which I can't recall. I think they just posted like a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
there'll be
will be
there'll be a list of the county reports available on the PAYS website under the 2023 link. So if you go to www.pays.pa.gov, click on the link for 2023. And once those reports are available, you'll be able to see the county level reports.
Probably, Jeff, by the time it goes through you, it'll be closer to the end of January. Folks should look for them. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and we can we'll let people know at
Yeah, we'll send a
webinar.
blast out.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And Mary, there was also a couple of questions that were asked around the 4th grade closing of the link. And I don't know if anyone did, I know that Rose was doing a great job answering those questions, but if anybody had any other questions around the closing of the 4th grade versus the closing of the 6 through 12.
Yeah. Because the 4th grade is still kind of in that pilot phase, and Elise, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had talked about doing that kind of as a smaller planning group, I think we agreed that those preliminary reports would be released. I believe, honestly, we thought that we would hold them until April when all of the final results are
I think, yes, I believe that
so
was our plan. Yes, we did not, we aren't going to release preliminary data for 4th grade just because it is still in the pilot phase, and we really want to make sure that it's accurate and that we have everything that we need and that it's good for the pilot. So we won't be releasing a pilot or a preliminary data report for the 4th grade.
Yeah. And a lot of that, it really is because it's a pilot. So, someday when 4th grade becomes, offered statewide and it's not in that pilot format, we'll kind of focus on doing that. And of course, that would have to be a separate survey, kind of a separate link. But yeah, for now. Any other questions that perhaps came into the chat before I was interrupted?
I think they were all answered the best I was following. We had someone raise their hand, but I think he got his answer in the chat. Did you have anything else you wanted to ask? I'm not sure who that was now.
I think they did get their response.
Okay,
and they were
great.
good. So I think all the questions in the chat are responded to and answered, and it seems like the folks who asked the question are satisfied with the response. But if anyone has any additional questions, now is the time to ask those. So in the last couple minutes before we end, if anyone had any questions, go ahead and ask those. Someone did ask the question about maybe some elaboration on why the fourth grade was added to the survey, and I know it is a pilot, like you just said, Mary, but if you could if someone could elaborate on why the decision was made to include fourth grade.
Yeah, I guess I'll take that. This is Jeff. Basically, as we've been rolling out the survey over the years, one of the things we've heard from our school partners has been a desire to get information as early as possible about what's going on in their students' lives at the elementary school level. By having that information, that allows them to kind of put in social emotional learning programs, other sorts of approaches to help students adjust and succeed at those earlier levels, which we know therefore leads to success as we move into middle, junior high school, and high school. So that's kind of what we did. As we've been saying all along, it's been a pilot the last 2 years. We want to make sure we get the language right, so it's understandable by fourth grade students. And the questions are focused more on those social emotional type regulation, understanding, rather than problem behaviors. So it is a different take, and again, that's why we really are being cognizant of how we're phrasing it, how we're going to roll it out. And we definitely appreciate all of our school partners that have taken part in that and have given us a lot of good feedback. And we're planning for the full rollout of that survey for 2025. Phyllis or Elise or Mary, anything I miss?
I think that was a great summary.
It was. I think it was very good. Hit all the points, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Jeff, for answering that. So there are no other questions in the question and answer section. So before we end, Sophie, if you could share the Connect with Us slide so folks can see how to connect with EPIS, how they can, where to go to share, or I'm sorry, to like us on social media. And I don't know if you want to give a little bit of information about the survey, Sophia.
Yep. I am posting the survey link in the chat. It'll also lead you to that link once you close out of the Zoom room. But if you can take just a couple of minutes, it won't take you longer than 5 minutes to fill out the survey. It just helps us get feedback for these webinars.
Yes, and as we will, our next webinar will be in January. So we will see you the first Wednesday in January with more information on the preliminary report. It will be similar information, but if you have any other questions or anything you would like us to cover in that January webinar, please feel free to reach out and we can definitely include more information.
And this recording should go out to all the participants that were registered and participated today. Next Wednesday, there'll be a thank you MailChimp that will come out, and that will include the recording, and you'll be able to reference this if you need to earlier than next month.
And I just want to say thank you for all of the great ideas everybody has shared there. And I hope everybody just take a minute to peruse through chat if you haven't. Really, really great ideas of what you're going to do with this. So I greatly appreciate, and I know we all do. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. I made note of that too, Phyllis. I think it's important, and that some of that information might might be relevant to the January webinar as well. So thank you so much for sharing that information in the chat. Do our panelists have anything else for the group before we adjourn?
There was one question from Julie who came in late, and she wanted to know when the results were coming out. So they're rolling out now. Mary, I don't know.
Yeah, we're rolling them out so we don't overload the system right now. So we have a good number of them out, and the rest will be coming out this afternoon or tomorrow. First to superintendents, and then we've given superintendents 1 week to consider to kind of review the individuals they've listed as authorized data users. And so starting on Friday, we will roll out the invitations to those, or the links, passwords and links to those that are either a survey coordinator or an authorized data user. And that's for districts that have already done the survey online and have already closed their links. Any other district doing the survey online who kind of doesn't fit those parameters, closing their links by November 17th, will be getting their report in January, along with the rest, and along with county and IU reports.
Thank you, Mary. And yes, to answer, I see Phyllis already answered it, but to answer it live, yes, our first Wednesday webinar will be January 3rd at 1 o'clock.
We did have a Q&A question as well.
Oh, yes. Yes, we can follow up. That's a great suggestion, Corinne. We can definitely send those out via MailChimp to all those who are registered for the survey or for the webinar today.